We are pleased to be back in Las Vegas. It's been a while. We're happy to be back here at the MGM. Thank you and all of your staff. Like I said, he set it up. We're excited about this fight. Unfortunately, the title fight fell off. These things happen, and they've definitely been happening to us lately. We've had a lot of guys fall out with injuries over the past couple of months. But like I always say, the great thing about mixed martial arts and the UFC is we have the cards stacked so deep, the show goes on. Who's first?
If I could start with Brian, please. Brian, it seems like obviously every time you fight, we get the narrative of the war hero and the military background. Is there any part of you that's kind of tired of rehashing that story and is looking for a different narrative, or are you excited to continue to have this platform to speak on it?
Yeah, honestly, it's never easy to talk about it because it always feels like I'm coming off as bragging about my military history, and that's not my intention. Being a president of a charity that helps veterans find jobs when they get out of the military, obviously it's important for me to continue to leverage the media I get from my fighting to raise money for that organization and for the cause of finding veterans jobs. So I think maybe some of the hardcore fans get sick of hearing about it, but I'm not the one who asks the questions, so my job is to answer the questions. And I think obviously being Memorial Day, that was going to happen for this fight, so I'm sorry if people are getting sick of hearing it.
Fair enough. And obviously, Vanderlei Silva was the original target opponent, and he turned you down because you're this American hero. How do you feel when you hear something like that? And is there any concern that you're going to face that as you continue to come up the ranks? People don't want to fight you?
No. I think for every one Brian Stann fan, there's probably 5,000 Vanderlei Silva fans. So I don't think that was the case. I think, in all honesty, Vanderlei was injured. He didn't know when he was going to be able to come back. He didn't want to drag me on. And when you get to legend status like Vanderlei is, some fights pique your interest and some fights don't, and it didn't. And in all honesty, let's face it, I got a tougher opponent who's better for my career. I mean, look who George Santiago is. He's a champion, 11-1 in the last 4 years, basically undefeated, multiple belts, and I have everything, so much more to gain from this fight than I would have fighting Vanderlei Silva, in my opinion.
And for George, you mentioned 11-1 in your past 12 fights. Was this your goal to get back to the UFC all along, or did this just suddenly become the right time for you?
Hey, hi everybody. At one point, yes. When I left UFC, I realized the big opportunity that I lost, and I was work very hard to get back here, and I couldn't ask for a best opportunity. Fighting American hero, we have to say that. We have to keep saying. Brian Stann, honored to fight him. Main card pay-per-view on May 28th, Memorial Weekend. So I'm very excited.
And can you talk about the difference? Obviously, a little bit smaller organization before. Now you come back, you've got insurance, you've got Twitter bonuses, all these things. Can you talk about what it's like now?
Yeah, this is like a dream. That's why I'm walking here happy all day. So everything will be like on Saturday. You guys gonna see.
Thank you. And finally, for Matt, please. Obviously, this is biggest fight of your career, and it's also big time with your movie release as well. Can you talk about what you've had to do to adjust and to balance as you're training for this fight?
Well, the movie coming. Can you mean that? Okay. The movie coming in the fall, and I'm really proud of the movie coming out throughout the world. A great inspiration, and I have to balance it out from fighting, training, and the movie. So everything worked out really great, and the most of the time I try to focus on training.
For Dana, I saw when Brian was talking, he had a big smile on your face. It just seems like he's a promoter's dream. He says everything that you would want to hear. He doesn't really complain about anything and just takes any opportunity that you give him, right?
Yeah, he's obviously he's a great human being. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy. And while he was talking, I wasn't smiling at him like he's my dream. I was smiling at him saying, this guy, he says it like it is. He nailed that one right on the head. I agreed with everything that came out of his mouth.
Is it a coincidence that he's fighting on Memorial Day?
I don't know. You think I'm that smart that we said, hey, let's get Brian Stann on the card on Memorial Day and play up the war hero thing?
No, that's what I'm not saying you aren't.
Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I don't know.
Questions first for Rampage and then for Matt. Rampage, can you talk about coming into this fight as a heavy favorite? Is it more pressure on you to win this fight? And for Matt, if you could follow up, you always relish the role as an underdog, and if you can talk about that as well.
Well, I don't know if there's more pressure on me yet. I haven't really thought about that, but I don't, you know, Matt Hamill's a very worthy opponent. He's a great wrestler, and he's really tough and stuff like that. I really enjoy being an underdog most of the time, but you know, you know, I just take fights as they come. You know, if Matt the underdog this time, you know, what I'm saying he can have the underdog status. Yeah, he can have it. I give it to him. He can have it.
Yeah. I've always been an underdog for the last five years, and I prove everyone wrong. You know, I'm just like a shock of the world. And yeah, I just got it from my grandfather. He always tells me, no matter what the opponent is, doesn't matter what ranking or what world champion, I just go out and compete. And I love to share. So, like I said, I love to be underdog.
Questions for you, Dana. Just continue to focus on the main event. I know you're not a big fan of some of the rankings that are out there. Most guys have Rampage up here, Matt a little bit lower. But what does a victory mean for each guy, especially with the you know, the influx of what's happening with the light heavyweight division right now? I mean, if Rampage wins, is he in for a title shot? You know, if Hamill wins, what is he? Is he in the mix there?
Yeah, well, to be honest, obviously Rampage Jackson is one of the best in the world at 205 pounds. This is a huge fight for Matt Hamill. You know, Matt Hamill's had some, like you said, he's had some good wins. You know, he beat Jardine. Who did he beat here? He beat Jardine, Munoz, Tito. You know, he's had some good wins. A win over Rampage would be huge. This is one of those career-defining moments for Matt Hamill should he be able to pull off a win on Saturday night over Rampage. And Rampage is already one of the best in the world. You know, Rampage gets through Saturday night, and yeah, he's in the mix for a title shot.
For Frank and Roy, you guys spoke on the conference call about the positives of fighting in your hometown. What are some of the sort of difficulties of fighting here? I know you guys both joked about sharing gym time and sort of overlapping each other. And Frank, you spoke about the lack of training partners. Could you expand on some of those things for us? Me first.
I think there's no drawback fighting in Vegas. If it was up to me, I would fight in Vegas every time. I've enjoyed my trips to other cities. I got to see things. I mean, I really was a fan of Indianapolis. I thought it was a beautiful place, but I mean, let's face it, I was born and raised here. I got my family, kids, they all come in here. It's my house. The night before the fight, I like the fact I'm sleeping in my bedroom, in my room, in my house, and I get to drive down to work. I find it pleasant, you know. I don't have to sit there and worry about, you know, well, what place is open? Where am I going to get my food? Do they serve this kind of, just go out there and fight. I prefer it every time.
Yeah, fighting at home is probably the best, just because everybody's, you know, we're in Vegas. Everything's open 24/7, so you can go get burgers at any time of the day. You can get it at night. So for me, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, everything that's open, you can just go to. Sleeping in your own bed's always good, versus sleeping in a hotel bed. But at this end of the day, you know, it's the fans of Vegas that come here to watch the UFC.
I think he was asking too about you two fighting over gym time. Isn't that what you said? Yeah. There's been a lot of that. They've been fighting over everything. Trunk colors, gym time, you name it. These two have been fighting and they haven't even fought yet.
Yeah, okay, let's establish some things. I've been in the UFC longer. When I want to go to the gym, I get to go to the gym first. The only problem was actually Roy and I don't think cared. We'd sit there, Jess would come in, hit the cardio machine, we'd sit there be talking before the fight. But then, you know, Giff, he was like, hey man, you got Frank walking around, you guys are like buddy-buddy with each other, like, you know, 10 weeks before the fight, talking about what's going on with other fighters. Let's build up some animosity, I guess. I don't think it worked, but, you know, I don't know. Did you get mad about the gym time?
Just a little.
I guess it worked a little bit. I smirked about it.
Me? Question for you, Roy. The state of the heavyweight division right now, with Brock Lesnar having to pull out because you know, the symptoms of diverticulitis, it's changed the dynamic at the top of the division, and you're facing a former champion right now. What does a win for you mean in this division, especially with Shane Carwin and Junior Dos Santos fighting you know, next month? What does this win mean for you on Saturday night should you pull it off?
It means a lot. I mean, you got Frank, who's a two-time UFC champion. So for me, just to put a UFC champion on my belt, it's one of those roadblocks that I need to get to where I can actually have the UFC belt. So it's just a great opportunity just to, you know, be fighting Frank, Frank is a legend of the UFC heavyweight division. I mean, he's been in there for 10 plus years. So for me to be able to say that I beat a legend and a 2-time heavyweight champ, that's, I'm all for that.
Frank, same thing to you. Your thoughts on the heavyweight division and what this victory could mean?
Well, I think that right now, I mean, I'm taking the opportunity that, what happened with the main event a couple weeks ago is I think catapulted to Roy and I are much more highlighted in this fight now on Saturday. Also with, obviously, what has happened with Lesnar, very unfortunate, but at the same time it does, raise to question, how much sooner I think now. I might have to fight one more time after Saturday to take up time because obviously they're going to have to set up the fight with Kane and the winner of that fight. But I feel that right now that puts us right there steamrolling into it.
For Frank also, do you enjoy training for fights when there's an animosity between you and the other fighter? I mean, does it make it easier? Clearly this time there wasn't, other than the gym stuff and the trunk.
No, I mean, it does make it a little bit easier as far as when we talk about the fight to build it up. I have a lot of mutual friends and family members that at times, Roy and I get it, that they don't understand it. But as far as when it comes down to the fight, I think the hard time I think a lot of people find with fighters is that if my wife were to get in the ring with me, I would try to knock her out and choke her unconscious. No problem. I would flip the switch instantly. I don't think that, I mean, any other day of the week, we don't have that. But that's what makes it to where we're up here. Roy and I are friends before the fight. I don't care. I like the guy a lot. And after the fight, as long as there's nothing done inappropriately, like I'm a choke being held after the bell gets wrong, which neither one of us have ever done anything like that, we'll be friends afterwards regardless of the outcome. But during that fight, it doesn't matter that we didn't like each other beforehand. Trust me, Roy's going to try to knock my head off. I'm going to try to knock his head off. And if I can catch him in a choke, I want him to go to sleep. And I guarantee you he would like to take my arm and put it on his mantle. I've never tapped in a submission competition, and I've never tapped in the UFC. I'm sure he would like to be the first one to create that happening.
For Roy and Frank, you kind of touched on this a little bit, Frank, but like you said, there's no real animosity in this fight. There was no reason to manufacture any animosity for the fight. But sometimes we see guys get in the cage that are friendly, and the fight doesn't really pan out because they're too busy, high-fiving and smiling and glove touching and hugging and that sort of thing. Is there any danger, and we'll start with you, Roy, of this fight playing out that way, or is there a different mentality you take to the cage?
Well, I think one thing that everybody's missing is this is a sport first. So it's like playing basketball, football, we're martial artists. So we're going out there to, put on a show and basically have a job. So like the animosity, are we going to be hugging? Because we might be hugging afterwards, like, good job, whatever. But we're not going to be hugging before because that's not what you do before a match, or you don't really see that during basketball either. When this is the playoffs, it's the playoffs, we're going out there to win.
Frank, do you care to comment? You touched a little bit on flipping the switch.
I was just curious, when does the hugging stop? No, he's absolutely right. I mean, that's what I've been trying to explain to everybody. I don't need to fake it and build up this that I don't dislike you. I think maybe that's what people are having a hard time understanding is that I don't have to dislike you to want to punch you. If it's my job to do that on that given day, it's the same thing as a football tackle. I watched John Lynch knock out his brother-in-law in a football game who was tight end. I'm telling you, that was going to be a rough Christmas. I'm sure before the game and after the game, they were cool with each other, but when, his brother-in-law came over to the middle, Lynch put the helmet to him, and he put him out. He had to leave the game. That's just the way it is. It's a sport.
And Dana, can you comment on that? I mean, I can think in some ways that's kind of music to your ears. You like, saying like big teammates need to fight or whatever, but when we see real beef, real animosity, obviously that's good for financial results as well. But what are you thinking when you have a fight like this?
Yeah, it is what it is. I never, you guys know, you've seen me long enough up here. We've got the days where guys absolutely can't stand each other, and it is what it is. And you got days when guys respect each other. Do I think these guys are going to fight, any less harder than two guys who hate each other on Saturday? Absolutely not. These guys want to win. But both, all these guys sitting up here right now and the rest of the card, it's a big deal to get out there and not only win, to put on a good performance. And you'll have those weird occasional moments where guys are touching gloves and hugging, and I'm not a big fan of that. It's weird when it happens, and yeah, Mosley Pacquiao is a very good example. A very good example. And you're watching, it looks like you're watching a high-priced sparring match. I'm a huge fight fan. Diaz and Daly are fights that I like. I like guys that go out there and go after it, and those are fun ones.
just for the future, I hate everybody now in that I'm going to fight, so we won't have all that animosity.
Hi, Dana.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Joyce with Raw Vegas and Versus.
Hello.
I have two questions for you. The first one being, we hear a lot that Matt Hamill asked for this fight with Rampage, and I know that fighters ask for opponents all the time. What made this matchup so attractive to you?
Well, there were a lot of things that made this fight happen, more than just Matt Hamill, asking for the fight and wanting the fight. First, anybody who knows me and knows how I am, I love guys who come out and ask for fights. I love guys who are hungry like that. You got a guy like Matt Hamill who's been on a win streak and wants to go after a guy like Rampage, a guy who's on top and considered one of the best in the world. But a lot of different things fall into place in how we make the fights. Timing, who's available, this, that, and everything else. But it was a combination of all those things that made this fight.
And last question, John Jones was recently doing a radio interview with The Score in Syracuse, and he said that if Rampage wins this fight, that he may be facing him in October, or Lyoto Machida. Can you confirm anything?
No. Listen, there were scenarios laid out for John Jones. If this guy won, if that guy won, we don't know what's going to happen. We got to see what happens before, you can make a fight anywhere in the future. But John Jones is the champion. Right now, here today, Rampage Jackson is one of the best in the world at 205 pounds. He's got to beat this guy first on Saturday, and then a lot of other things have to fall into place before we can make those kind of decisions.
I have a question for George and for Dana. George, I guess I'll start with you. If you've been right here, hi, successful outside of the UFC, you were here before, and now you're back. I'm just curious if, while you were away, was coming back here your specific goal? And now that you're here, how do you approach it? And then for you, Dana, what does this say about what a fighter has to do to come back after they've been released?
Yeah, of course, like I said for many guys before, I lost one of the big opportunities in my life being here, and I was work very hard to come back, and this is the best place to be. If you're a fighter, you want to be in the biggest event in the world. So this is UFC. So I think I was doing this, and working hard to one day have opportunity. I just want to say thank you for Dana, Joey Silva, and Lorenzo. I'm back.
And the thing about a guy, let's say you get cut from the UFC. For a lot of people, it's life-changing. It's a big deal, and I love people who overcome things. You lose, you got to go fight in these smaller shows. It's a lot more difficult. This guy lost and was cut in, like, I don't know, 2006, around there somewhere, and goes out and goes on an 11-fight win streak. Goes out, makes the adjustments, does what he has to do, has that competitive drive and the mental toughness to come back and win 11 fights in a row and work his way back into the UFC. Those are exactly the kind of guys we're looking for.
Last questions for Quinton. You've mentioned on numerous occasions that you don't want to be fighting past the age of 35, which is about 2.5 years away, if I'm not mistaken. Have you in your camp created a blueprint as to what you want to do? I mean, I spoke to Lance before the press conference, and if it was up to him, he'd like to have you fight right away. Is that something you want to do? Get as many fights in the next 2.5 years, or stagnate it, sort of thing?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about how soon and stuff I want to fight. Whenever fights come up and stuff like that, I haven't gave a whole lot of thought into it recently, because I made my mind up when I first started fighting that I wouldn't fight past 35. That's all I knew. When I get 35, I feel like I'd be an old man for this sport. So what I'm saying, I just decided that years ago. Because I got a lot of things I want to do. I got these finger painting things I really love doing. I really love that stuff. Finger painting. I'm actually getting good at it now. I made a peacock the other day, and it was very beautiful. So when I retire, I think I'll be making a lot of finger paints and put it all over the house and stuff. Might sell some on eBay if you guys are interested in it. Let me know. I'll make more. Thank you.
A question for George, please. Here in front. We know about the win streak that you put together since you've been since you were in the UFC the first time. Just one loss since then. Can you talk a little bit about how you've grown as a fighter since the first time you were here in the UFC, and what's different about your game now?
I think I became more professional. I had to go all over the world to try to figure out what was missing in my game, and I found it, you know. And since then, I've been fighting all the good guys out of the UFC and winning, you know. So I think that's the biggest point, you know, the biggest thing I changed in my game and got the success, you know.
Yep.
This question is for Rampage. Earlier this week, you wrote that you had been a little bit lighter than you had been in previous fights. Does coming in a little bit lighter this time around, will that change your perspective on training going forward?
No, just coming in a little bit lighter, all it basically does is help my weight cut and help a little bit better. That's about it. You know, over the years when I used to fight in Pride, you know, I was a single parent, and I used to eat fast food all the time. I used to have to cut 15 pounds every time before I fight. You know, I really got sick of that over the years, and I got accustomed to just cutting like 6 pounds since I've been over here in the UFC and everything. I kind of like that, but you know, recently I just been blowing up between my fights, just getting real lazy and having to lose a lot of weight in training camp, and I'm sick and tired of that lifestyle. You know, being really heavy, and I really regret getting real heavy after my November fight. You know what I'm saying? Because I couldn't fight Shogun when Rashad got injured and stuff like that, and that really, you know, it was like a kick in the ass, you know, for me and myself. So I'm really excited about getting in shape for this fight, because I haven't seen my abs for a long time, man. You know, I miss them. You know, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you disgusted with yourself, you're a professional athlete, man. That's bad. That's embarrassing. So you know what I'm saying? I'm really excited about this. So I've been, you know, tweeting pictures and stuff like that with my abs and stuff. I'm happy, man. I'm gonna try to, you know, keep my weight down. Me and my friend open up a gym and stuff like that. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm doing it. You know, getting a gym right down the street from my house. I'm a lazy guy. So I can just, you know, I can just drive to the gym right down the street and start, you know, training and staying in shape so I can look like a professional fighter all the time. Because people always think I'm a football player for some reason. I don't like that.
I like it.
Rampage, could you ever see yourself in a scenario when you get to be 35, seeing a different set of circumstances and changing your mind, or is it completely permanent that the 35th birthday is the end of Rampage?
Oh, I always said that I wanted to retire at the age 35, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, everybody knows I keep it real about my drive that was driving me to do my job, what I do, you know what I'm saying? I have a lot of things that, you know what I'm saying, I have to take care of and stuff like that. And you know, I'm putting my little sister through college, and I want the best for her and my parents. You know, we grew up poor, and I want my mom to drive a nice car and live in a nice house, and I want my dad to have the same. So those are the things that drives me to keep fighting so I can afford to do those type of things. And if it need be, if you know, time for me to fight after 35, you know, if it's really necessary, I will. But like I said, I want to retire at 35 and do other things, because you know what I'm saying, I honestly, even when I started the sport, I had certain injuries that I didn't think that was going to last this long, and I've gotten better over the years and learned how to take care of myself, and you know, learn how to have great doctors and stuff around. That's the main reason why I always wanted to retire at 35, because I didn't think my body would last all these years, but it's been doing really good, and fortunately the injuries that I have never bothered me in my fight, but it bothers me in training, and that's the main reason why I always hate training. And that's why when you guys see me fight, that's why I always try to make my opponent pay for all the hard training that I have to do, because every time I train, every day, something hurts, and it hurts bad, but I work through it, and I make it through camp. And most of the times I fight injured, and I don't say anything, but I still fight, and I do my job. But you know, that must come to an end, because honestly, I'm the biggest wuss ever. I cry over you know what I'm saying, sprained toe. You see me complaining and crying, and I just can't keep taking that year after year.
And I actually like that. I actually like guys who set a goal to retire at a certain age. It's not a bad thing. You know, the problem in boxing, which hopefully we can change that over the next few years, is financially guys have had to keep boxing even after, you know, Roy Jones said he wasn't going to keep fighting anymore, and you know what has happened last week. But Hopkins is a different scenario. I look at Hopkins like a couture. You know, guy's body has stayed with him the whole time. He's still relevant. He's still good. and he won the title the other day. There's stories like that that are incredible when you have this guy who defies all the odds at a certain age to do, you know, superhuman things like Bernard Hopkins did, and then you see guys that are out there fighting because they have to, which is, you know, not good.
And I don't want to be that guy out there fighting because he had to. You know, I looked up to Mike Tyson big time, you know, and I feel disrespected. A lot of fans don't understand what I say about I want to move on and do other things after fighting. Like, honestly, fighting is a great job. I think I have one of the best jobs out there. I feel like it's one of the hardest jobs, and the UFC has done so much for me, honestly, guys. And it's a great organization to be a part of. But you know what I'm saying? If Dana would pay me every month after I retire, then you know what I'm saying, I'll fight a little longer. You know, I don't care, but it just don't work that way. You got to keep living. You got to keep other things. You got to keep going. You got to keep doing. I see a lot of pro wrestlers and football players and boxers that don't have anything after their fighting career, and I have kids to you know, look after. I want to put some of my kids through college, and I know some of my kids I'm gonna need lawyer fees for them. I know it. Y'all laughing, but I'm being real, and I know this. So I know what I have to do.